Okay, so here is a collection of some new timber I got, mostly because I didn't have any hardwood left from some free pallets I've been getting. So this is a mountain ash sold under the name Tassie Oak here in Australia, big box stores. Fairly hard, it's a eucalyptus. Most of it is fairly straight grained. As you can see, I got lucky with these ones, other than this split here, which I'll avoid. Straight grain on all four sides of these to make the legs of a shaker inspired hall table or a bedside table, but I'm going to use it in the front hallway. So let's get into the project. Okay, so I'm going to make the top 20 by about 12. So basically I'm going to make it about an inch longer. So I'll cut out some 21 inch panels and glue them up to start the tabletop, and then we'll get on with the rest of the table. Okay, so here's our 3 panels, and they basically were cut out of the board like this. What you want to do when gluing up panels is do some grain matching. So here we have some darker color on these sides of the bits. So one thing that would make this panel look better is to flip that one around. Still the same top. The grain's more consistent in color. Help the panel glue up line disappear. I'll also cut this a bit longer, about an inch longer or inch wider than I'm going to need. So here again we have the same thing. If we just spin that one around, that looks a bit better. There's a bit of a whirl there. The grain matches a bit better. We try to flip it over. Does that make it better or worse? No. I like that better. If we flip this one, we flip that one. I don't mind that. How about this way? No. This way? No. This way. I'm not sure about that one. No. I do like that. Let's just go here. Not very well. Not very well. No. And actually, not too bad. Okay, so that's how we're going to glue up our panels, and we just got to give them a quick mark with the pencil so we keep them in line and we know which way we're going. Okay, so we'll just go like that. That way we know where the panels are. I know that's hard to see. I don't want to go too dark, because I'll have to sand this off later. Okay, so my joints aren't quite perfect. I'm just going to touch them up lightly with a block plane. Put that one aside, and we'll check that in a minute once we do the edge it's made enough with. I don't have a joiner, so and although you guys can't see, that is very good. So we'll do the other edge as well, because this is a center board. Okay, we got a pretty thick shiv in there, which is not what I wanted to do. try that against the board. It meets up fairly well, but it will clean up this edge just slightly. Okay, we're going against the grain there, so we'll flip the board around and try it again. That's much better. Obviously you want to get this 90 degrees. And I am not quite happy with the panel. Bring back the original one. And we're just gonna plane down the center panel just a bit more. Some nice shavings. And I think that it's not quite 90. This back edge is a bit high. Just take some off the back edge. Just like that again. Almost there. I might just switch to a larger plane. Going against the grain, turn the board around. That's better. And we'll just take some off the back edge. Okay, glue up time. So let's do these two edges first. Okay, so a lot of people, I should have put down some wax paper, but that's all right. I'll move this after I glue it. A lot of people put down too much glue. Basically, the glue isn't to fill any voids in your pour joinery. So practice joinery. Glue is just mechanical bond to hold this together. So basically a very thin layer, like, you know, thousandths of an inch. So possibly a little bit more than I just did, but not much. We want a little bit of glue squeeze out to show that we've closed up the joint. And we'll get to that in a second as well. We don't actually want to squeeze the joint so much so that we start to cup and warp our boards. All right, so there's one. There's two. I'm going to do the third, but I'll put a bit more glue on this one because I'm not going to glue the other side. So basically spread it out, rub it in with your finger, give the joint full coverage, but not like I've done in the past, a huge amount of glue. Okay, and we're going to line up our boards fairly well. Mostly worried about the grain pattern and not the edges of the boards because I cut this board long so that I'll be able to trim the edges and basically go out to grain. So clamps, put it on just enough to get a bit of glue squeeze out, close up the joints. Doing this on the flat workbench and trying to keep the panel flat. There we go, a bit of glue squeeze out. Clamps radiate pressure at 45 degrees. So if I put the other clamp here, I'm clamping through past the ends of the board. I'm closing up any minor joints, and obviously we want to alternate the clamps as well. I only have 2 clamps of this length, but I do have a 3rd clamp that I'll put on the other side to help keep these boards down. So that's too much clamping pressure. Just do a bit of clamping pressure. Just like that, just closes up the joint. Keeps this flat. We can put some weight on it because it wants to pull up. Basically what I'm going to do is turn the clamps on their edge to keep the panel flatter. And I'll use this bar to help line up the panels as well. Okay, so this reminds me that I need to buy some bar clamps. I got a bit of a gap here. I could use wood filler. I'm not going to be able to close it up. And that'll happen. So what am I doing? I'm doing what I said not to do. My tabletop's not going to be level, so let's redo this clamp and glue down. Okay, so here's a better method. Got the boards clamped flat to the table. Got a good squeeze out. I'm about to wipe the squeeze out up with a damp cloth. And I'm gluing up 2 of the panels, and then I'll glue the 3rd to the 2nd panel. And this will help keep it easier, or help keep it flatter and more true. So last thing I've done is put a heavy weight on the inside edge of the board where I can't get it clamped to the workbench, and that is keeping my board flat. Okay, so we have some clamping pressure this way. What I need is some downward clamping pressure. Over the 2 boards there. Over the 2 boards here. Okay, so that joint feels better than the first joint. Give it a bit more pressure this way. Keep it down. And just to make sure, a bit more pressure there. And a bit of pressure on this end. Okay, a bit more glue squeeze out to clean up. And a hand feel across the joint feels good. So I can feel the joint here, not too bad. I'm gonna have to do a bit of scraping and planing. Here the joint is much better. Okay, so we got the clamps off. It's looking pretty good. This joint feels good. It's a little bit visible here. This joint is not perfectly flat. At this point, I'm really going to move on to make the legs. I'll come back to this, but basically, use the plane to even this out. Obviously, the jack plane or the bench plane would be faster. This joint is all but disappeared. We'll use a bit of wood filler if we have to, but I think it'll be okay. Okay, we'll get on to cutting out the legs. We're using 30 by 30 stock, and they're going to be 26 3/4 inches. I've made them about 1/4 inch long, and I'll use the shooting board to square up the ends initially and bring them to length. Okay, so we got our 4 legs. We'll try to pick the best sides. This one has the worst grain, these two. That side being the worst, so we'll probably put that to the side, make that the front. Same. And these ones have pretty good grain on all 4 sides. There's a bit of a split going in this one, but we'll use it because it's all we got. We'll put that probably to the rear. Anyway, what we need to get onto is square up at least the one end right now on the shooting board. Then we'll cut some tenons. And on one side, we'll make a dovetail, tenon and a dovetail. Okay, and so I've got a 1/2 inch straight cutting bit. I'm going to install that in our rudder table, as I can find all the parts. Okay, there we go. In place. I've adjusted the table a couple minutes ago, just off camera. And now once I get a battery for my depth guide, we'll be able to adjust the height, cut our dados and our rabbits. I'm just going to put this below the table right now to protect the bit, and then we'll lock it back in place. Okay, so I'm getting ready to move the 3/8 inch cutter up 3/8 of an inch to cut a 3/8 inch tenon or a groove for the tenon in this 30 by 30 block of wood. This will be a test piece, so we'll cut the legs after we set it up. Okay, so we'll lock the cutter down. There it goes. And we'll readjust the fences. Get ready to do a test cut. So this is 30 by 30. So I'm going to set the fence up so it's 15 mil from the cutter. And I'm going to set the 0 of my fence at the back of the blade. And then we'll make it 5 inches long. Okay, so 15 mil on the back. Let's move the feather out of the way, feather board. 50 mil on the front. We'll set up our feather boards. Okay, and we'll move the guard over top of the blade a little bit higher than our piece of work. And we've got our stop at 5 inches. A little bit less than 5 inches. We'll do a test cut and we'll see how that looks. Okay, done some quick marks on my front and back legs. Decided what faces I want to show, and now we'll cut the grooves. Okay, so I have a 3/4 inch piece of wood. I want to center it. So I've set the height to 3/16. So now that we have that done, we'll lock it into place and run a test piece. So this will be for the tenons to fit in the grooves we just cut. So 3/4 inch piece of wood. If we take 3/16 off each side, we'll have a 3/8 inch tenon centered in the piece. Okay, so we set up the fence. Because I'm using a 1/2 inch cutter, I've had to move the fence back, spread the wings. This should cut a 3/8 inch deep tenon. We use this 3/4 inch block to test the fit. Okay, so we've got our tenon, we've got this. It seems to be a bit loose, which means I'm cutting too high. The depth is pretty good, so the fence could move back slightly and the cutter move down. Okay, so we've adjusted the fence back a couple millimeters and the cutter down a very slight amount, and we'll try it again. Okay, so our groove fits nicely in every direction, pretty much perfect. So let's cut out these boards. Okay, so now that I know that my groove and tenons fit, I'm going to have to take some of this wood. I'm gonna rip it down to 5 inches tall, and I'm gonna have to cut the length to the length that's between it. The original table plans were 18 by 18, so I'm gonna have to do a bit of calculations because my table is not gonna be 18 by 18. It's gonna be, I don't know, we can give it a quick measure. I think the tabletop right now is about 18 by 21. So we'll lay out some lines, see what looks best. I guess first thing we'll rip down the table, the edges straight, and rip it to width, and then decide on the width of the aprons front and sides.